Okay, folks, welcome back to another edition of Cine-Geezers. My name is Mike Dobbs.
I am Stephen R. Bissette, fellow Cine-Geezer.
Okay, and the premise of this show is two old movie fans who really don't give a shit about the MCU, who want to talk about things that you may never have heard about. That's the whole premise.
Although this time we're going to talk about something that has been playing in theaters since my birthday, March 14th, 2025, where I turned 70 years old. What did I most enjoy doing at the age of 70 in March of this year? It was going to see with my friend Mike Dobbs The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie.
Um, you know, I try to watch as many theatrical releases as A, I can afford to, and B, that I got the time for. That was one of the best movie experiences of this year. Maybe the best in some ways for me, being an animation guy. Um, and this was not an easy film for Steve and I to watch. Um,
Took a
be-
little legwork.
yes, so I live in Springfield, Massachusetts. Steve lives in central Vermont, and we met in Keene, New Hampshire, which is 70 miles away from my house. Probably about the same distance from your house.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we met there at the Keene Cinemas, owned and operated by Chad Free, and that is not a pseudonym. That is Chad's name. And Chad goes out of his way to bring in films that don't get a lot of play in other theaters, and that is where The Day the Earth Blew Up was playing, closest to Mike and I. And we were fortunate that it was between our two geographic homes.
Right, because I actually went to the distributor's website. The distributor is a company called Ketchup, and for me, it was either Pittsfield or somewhere deep into Connecticut. And I just said, I don't want to drive to Pittsfield. Uh,
Pittsfield being the other end of the state from where you live in
and
Massachusetts.
it's like, okay, it's in Keene. Let's go. That's not too far. It's a pleasant ride, which it was. A wonderful theater. Chad's one of us. He may not be our age, but he's a Cine-Geezer in his heart. That's for sure.
Well, and like you, I mean, you managed a motion picture studio, theater. I'm sorry, a motion picture theater for quite a number of years in Hadley, Massachusetts, and you and Chad had a lot to talk about once
Yes,
you
and
all
it was
got together.
amazing to me um, how little many things have changed in the industry since the time I was doing it. Um, so the day the Earth blew up is the first time we have a Looney Tunes movie in the very long history of Warner Brothers Animation. And it's now you're saying, oh no, we had Space Jam and stuff like that. So, no, this is all animation. This is a hand-drawn 2D traditional cartoon animated feature. This is the first time the Warner Brothers characters have been in something like this. And you would think that it would be something that would have been in every theater in America.
Yeah, this should have been a tentpole motion picture. This should have been a relaunch of the entire Looney Tunes franchise. But
But it wasn't. And the guy who was the director, a guy named Peter Braungart, I probably am mispronouncing that. Um, Peter's history is pretty interesting. He's an animation guy, and he's the guy who produced the new batch of Looney Tunes cartoons that were featured on HBO Max. And generally, the animation community embraced these because his approach was try to recreate the characters, the kind of humor that the Warner's cartoons, especially in the 40s and especially directed by Bob Clampett, had. And yet he did it in a way, he and his team did it in a way that did not seem, it seemed to, they were making new cartoons, but within an aesthetic that they embraced, which means that they added things that were contemporary, but at the same time, older cartoon fans recognize that these guys love this material, honor the material, um, want to do things with the material that's appropriate. However, um, they made this feature film, and it cost $15 million. Now, in the movie industry today, Steve, as I know you will agree with me, 15 million is considered low budget.
Yeah, exactly. That would be the catering budget of any MCU movie.
So when you look at that, you look, this should make money. This should be a hit because the budget is low enough and the characters are still extremely well known and the film is good. You take those three elements, good film, recognizable characters that people love, and a modest budget, this should have been a home run.
This should have been what Minecraft is right now.
Right.
This should have been that. But no, that
David
didn't happen.
Zaslav. Doesn't Zaslav sound like a serial villain's name? You know, this is the Zaslav Death Ray, right? Um, he's the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, and he's the one who decided initially that this film would go on HBO Max, and then they pulled it, and it just sat for over a year.
Yeah, it had a couple festival showings, was all I could track. So, animation festival showings.
So the small company Ketchup is the one that was able to pick it up. They released it. The worldwide gross for their theatrical release was 11.5 million. And I'm not criticizing Ketchup at all. In fact, I would buy them a wonderful dinner. Let's take them out to dinner soon.
Something better than what Ketchup would go with.
Right.
You would treat them to. And let's not forget, Ketchup already had won You're in My Heart by making sure we were able to see the new Hellboy movie, which otherwise we never would have seen if it hadn't been picked up by Ketchup.
So they picked up the film. As you can see, they did a beautiful poster. They had a rather substantial advertising campaign on Facebook. There we go. Look at that poster. I'm really envious you got that, Bissette. Because that's
Mother.
Mother. Um, so they did, I think, as good a job as they could have, considering their size. There is one more of these that's sitting on the shelf that Ketchup will be releasing next year, and it's Coyote versus Acme.
Wow, that film's almost legendary now, and it's not been seen by anyone that I know of. And that's another film that Warner Brothers produced with their animation division, completed, and then decided to tank, decided to bury, decided to write off. I'm relieved they didn't have to wipe all the hard drives and destroy the film completely.
Like they did with Batgirl.
Exactly. Let's talk for just a sentence or two about Batgirl, because that's what could have happened to the funniest movie I've seen this year. Could have gone the way of Batgirl. Mike, what happened to Batgirl?
So Batgirl is made, and on paper, it looked tremendous. You had Brandon Fraser, fresh off of an Academy Award win, as the villain. My mind, of course, is that of a nearly 71-year-old man, so I can't remember the name of the actress as Batgirl, but physically, she looked great. Her costume looked great. And what's more, Michael Keaton as Batman is in this film. Considering how fans reacted to him being in The Flash,
yeah,
I am among those who went to see The Flash and subsequently bought the Blu-ray because of Michael Keaton, because he worked so well in that film.
Yes.
So when you consider those elements of who's in the film, there was a fair amount of fanboy coverage in social media that would indicate that the film looked good. However, Warner Brothers decided to take a $90 million tax write-off by supposedly, according to the two directors, completely wiping this digitally made film off the servers. Supposedly, it no longer exists in any form.
So we'll never see Leslie Grace as Batgirl.
Okay, thank you.
We
Thank you.
will never see J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's gone. It's gone.
So I'm very, very, I'm very happy that Ketchup was able to acquire the rights, the distribution rights. Now, this film, if you've not seen it, I will tell you that it is slated for a Blu-ray release. I'm not sure exactly when.
I've got the date. It was announced for May 27th of this year. So we've got a
2 days
little over
my
another
birthday.
month. There you go. Yeah, it opened on my birthday in theaters, and it's coming out on your birthday on Blu-ray and DVD. So
It's our Blu-ray. It's our
it's
birthday.
our movie, Mike. It's meant for Cine-Geezers, Bissette and Dobbs. It was meant for us. Look, I'm not lying. There's my birthday on the poster, March 14th, and it's coming out on disc on your birthday. This is phenomenal.
Now,
This is
it will
phenomenal.
also be available through online through Fandango/Vudu. So you can also watch it in your home if you don't want to buy the disc. But I would suggest to you to buy the disc. And the reason, Steve there went and saw the film 2 more times without me.
I've been 3 times. Here's how it worked. It was funny. The week after you and I caught it, my very good friend Alec Longstreth, who I co-taught classes with during my 15-year stint at the Center for Cartoon Studies, Alec now studies animation and teaches animation. And before his visit, he emailed me somewhat desperate saying, Steve, is the Looney Tunes movie playing anywhere near you? And it was actually the day that you and I had gone to see it in Keene. And I said, well, I don't know if it'll still be there, next week when you're going to be here, but it's in Keene, New Hampshire right now. And I could definitely get us down there. During the week, it was playing in Springfield, Vermont, which is much closer to my home. And I was able to take not just Alec Longstreth, but also our very dear friend and fellow Center for Cartoon Studies teacher, John Chad. And the three of us went to the Springfield Cinema, also owned and managed by Chad Free and his family, and enjoyed the Day the Earth Blew Up all over again. And I have to tell you, Mike, it was even better the second
Yeah.
time.
Yes.
By then, I come home and my wife, Marjorie, is now jealous. It's very rare that Marge is jealous about any movie I choose to go see in a theater with my friends. So the following Sunday morning, not only did Marge and I go, but our very good friends, Lori Claffey and Bill Cook, joined us for the 10:30 Sunday morning matinee of The Day the Earth Blew Up. And I'm happy to say we were not the only ones in the theater. I mean, people are finding this movie, and it was even better the third time. This is right now my favorite film of 2025, bar none. It's the only genuinely funny comedy I've seen in a motion picture or theater in 2 or 3 years. And it's just an amazing pleasure, an incredible feat of line drawn animation as a feature film. Not only does the creative team honor Bob Clampett's work, but there's touches of Tex Avery and Chuck Jones in this film. There's nods to John Kricfalusi and Ralph Bakshi in this film. Um, Farmer Jim as a character is presented as this sort of strange painting with moving lips, and I'm flashing back to Clutch Cargo and Space Angel. I just think it's a work of genius. And as a devoted fan of 1950s science fiction, horror, and fantasy films, this is a terrific send up of that 1950s era of genre works. Lot of touches of Quatermass 2, if you're a Nigel Neal fan, Enemy from Space here in America. The obvious films like The Day the Earth Stood Still, The Thing. A lot of Night of the Living Dead in here.
Yep.
Choose gum created zombies. And for those of you who think line drawn animated features with Porky Pig and Daffy Duck are above you, or somehow your sensibility is too high to subject yourself to a feature film line drawn Looney Tunes movie. At one point in the film, the alien menace is presented looking like one of the figures, the central figure from the famous 1944 triptych painted by Irish-born British artist Francis Bacon, Three Studies for Figures at the Base of a Crucifixion. Except where the Francis Bacon painting has a rag over the extended neck and face of the central creature in his triptych. The Looney Tunes movie has a pair of wind-up choppers in place of the mouth. But I mean, it blew my mind on second viewing when I recognized it. Like, oh my God, that's that Francis Bacon painting that they're goofing on. It is just a great, great animated feature, and like I said, my right now, hands down, my favorite film of 2025, and it's been a good year so far.
Yeah,
Here,
yeah. Um, you know what I what I really did love, and you pointed out a number of these little touches, is that this was this was a homage, but unfortunately, a lot of homages. How can I put this the right way? They don't really stand well without the material they're honoring. They don't, they sort of have to be propped up by nostalgia. This is not propped up by nostalgia.
no, no, no. This never flags in pacing. They just go,
Right.
and if you
And,
got it, great, and if you didn't, it still feeds the
exactly.
experience. Yeah,
And what I really loved about it was that uh, this is a buddy movie. This is a classic buddy movie, and the Warner Brothers cartoons, like the Best Fleischer cartoons, uh, were about characterization. Characters did things for reasons because they were literary creations. And here we've got Porky Pig, amazingly enough, still stuttering a bit. I was both heartened and amazed that they kept that.
well,
Uh,
not only that, the love affair with Petunia Pig. There's some wonderful moments where the two of them realize they both have the same speech patterns, and
yeah,
it only brings them closer together. So,
but Porky is a great straight man.
yeah,
Uh, Porky is a guy who uh,
he's the Bud Abbott to Daffy's Lou Costello, only better than the
right.
Abbott Costello.
Um,
So,
and Daffy, this is Daffy evolved a lot during the height of his being in animated cartoons. He went from being a really silly, crazy character, um, and then he became much more nuanced with Chuck Jones. This is sort of a cross between having some of the Chuck Jones self-aware nuances to his character with that of Bob Clampett's anything might happen.
right.
And for those of you who aren't familiar with Bob Clampett as a director, uh, Warner's had Warner's had two guys who were absolutely apeshit crazy. Uh, Tex Avery, anything for a laugh, and then Bob Clampett. And you could almost see that these guys worked in the same studio, physically in the same studio, because they were more than willing to go the extra distance. You have never seen a crazy cartoon than the iron lung jokes involving Daffy in a cartoon Bob Clampett
Bob
directed.
Clampett had that Daffy Duck cartoon where at one point he's behind a fence and he punches his own head down his neck and squirts from a ketchup bottle up over the fence so it looks like jets of blood, and then comes running around the back of the fence to terrified Porky Pig looking like his head's been chopped off. That was a Bob Clampett gag, right? That was like, what are we seeing?
So what I like about this film is that these guys are like literary characters. They do stuff because it's out of their personality, and we've established their personality and established their relationship.
Yeah, right. We learned their childhood background, their origin
Right.
story. Yes.
Um, and then we've they've taken that as the base, and now they put them in this framework, as you said, is this spot on parody of science fiction films, especially those of the 1950s.
Yeah, Peter Braungart, in one of the references I found online, mentioned that it was two of the merry melodies rather than the Looney Tunes. Duck Dodgers in the 25th and a half century from 1953 and Rocket Squad from 56, in which Daffy Duck and Porky Pig were put together in these science fiction scenarios. But I was thankful that he didn't drag Marvin the Martian into it. Um, the friends that we went to see the film with that Sunday morning, Lori and Bill, Lori was disappointed Bugs Bunny didn't appear, but I have to say I was relieved that it just focused on Daffy and Porky. It's their film,
Yes,
right? And
absolutely.
the only other character that's really brought in who's recognizable is Petunia Pig. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but I remember Petunia Pig more from the Dell comic books than from the Warner cartoons.
Yes, it's not like Petunia Pig was a big element in the Warner cartoons, but she was a huge element in the Dell comics.
And she's a great character in this film, a great
Yes,
character
and
in this
again,
film.
they created a character that's just not shtick or gags.
No.
It's she's a feminist. She's strong.
And she has a quest. She wants to discover the ideal flavor that nobody has tasted.
Right.
So she also has a mission in this film.
I mean, I practically broke into tears when they played Powerhouse.
Yeah.
So this is the great Raymond Scott, um, whose works like Powerhouse, several others of his works were bought to be used in Warner Brothers. I read a biography of Raymond Scott. It claimed that Raymond Scott was never aware that his work was being used in cartoons. I find that
Really?
really hard to believe because he owned the rights to his music. And
Yeah, I remember you and I and Marge getting to see Raymond Scott perform in the Eddie Cantor film Alibaba Goes to Town,
yeah,
where it had a whole Raymond Scott, like it was one of those films that had musical numbers, and the film stops at one point, and there's this amazing Raymond Scott performance with his orchestra, and it's like pre-Spike Jones inventiveness of like
yeah.
crazy music. Brilliant, brilliant
Although
stuff.
and Scott himself took his music very seriously. He was a huge pioneer in electronic music.
Yeah, the Moog synthesizer and pre, yeah, yeah,
So
he was huge.
um, he's
Now
he's
that
largely forgotten today, but he was a huge figure in contemporary and American jazz for years, and his work really has lived on thanks to the Warner Brothers cartoons. Really,
yeah, and when they use it in the film rockets into this trippy non-narrative sequence that's right out of, what it reminded me of is in Mr. Bug Goes to Town when the one of the bug characters gets electrocuted and the film goes in, or more familiar to most people in Dumbo, the Disney film Pink Elephants on Parade. In The Day the Earth Blew Up, when the Raymond Scott score kicks in, we're suddenly in this Art Deco meditation on a workday with Daffy and Porky that goes completely stylistically out there. Just a brilliant little passage in the film of pure animation, almost of the quality of John and Faith Hubley or the UPA studios in the 50s, and then the film comes right back to its story. Yeah.
I have to emphasize that the animation in this film is just freaking perfect. It is so well done. It captures the quality, the animation quality of the original Warner Brothers cartoons. Um, I was blown away. They really didn't take many shortcuts. It looks great. It looks like quote unquote full animation from the golden age.
One of the shortcuts that didn't work for normal people, Marge, Lori, and Bill, and it confused them. It made you and I laugh, which was when Farmer Jim, as a stiff painted character,
Yes,
moves like a cutout across the screen. And you and I cracked up because that's right out of, John Crick-Falusi's Ren and Stimpy era.
absolutely.
And so that was they weren't cutting corners because of budget. This was another one of their nods to, animation a lot of us have grown up with. Um, I also have to say, Mike, in revisiting it, I really appreciated the vocal
Yeah.
performances even more. I mean, it's an amazing cast. Eric Bauza does the voices for both Daffy Duck and Porky Pig. Um, Candy Milo as Petunia Pig. Peter McNichol, who I remember from Dragon Slayer,
Yep.
the as the space invader, the central nominal villain, who it turns out is not a villain. Um, just Lorraine Newman is the voice of the woman, Mrs. Gretsch, who has thrown the terror of being thrown out of their homes into Daffy and Porky. Just great vocal performances throughout the entire film, and some great one-off vocal gags as well. Um,
But it's so well done. Um, if this had been if this had been released with more marketing behind it and with getting it into greater numbers of cinema, this would have been a huge freaking hit. And it is a shame that it wasn't. It is a shame that Warner's management put no faith into it. I should point out that HBO Max had heralded a while back that they were putting original Looney Tunes on the system. They've now pulled them. At the same time, though, you and I could still spend tens of thousands of dollars on getting licenses of these characters for merchandise. Um, they still resonate with the American public.
you would have thought just keeping those original Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies on Max to help promote the release of this film would have been a no-brainer decision, and instead they pulled them off. I
Right.
mean, that if anyone out there needs further evidence of how little these studios care about their own properties, there we are. It's a miracle this film exists. It's a miracle this film is as terrific as it is. And it's a miracle we got to see it in a theater. And I'm so glad, Mike, that you and I got to see it together. That was just,
It,
it was a great day. And, I am the type of cinema geezer who does go see films repeated times, but it's been a long time since I went to see the same movie 3 times in a 2-week period.
oh,
And
absolutely,
I'm
absolutely.
really glad I did.
And I'll tell you, if the film had been playing here in my area, I would have taken my wife to it for a second time. I would have considered taking my grandson to it because it's just a great movie. It's funny, it's original, and there's been a lot of criticism in the animation community about taking classic characters and then doing cheap gags with them.
You're talking about Daffy Duck's ass.
I'm
That's what you're
talking
talking
about
about.
Daffy Duck's ass. So at one point in the story, Porky and Daffy are they need money, and Daffy comes up with the idea of being a social media influencer, and he does this by blowing up his ass, literally. So it's this huge ass. So we've got the whole Kim Kardashian backside being referenced here. Uh, it's a funny bit, but then the narrative moves on, and we do not obsess on Daffy's ass. We do.
Oh, but there is an earlier Daffy ass gag when Porky is patching with cement the crack in the sidewalk, looks behind him, and like a plumber, we can see the
Yeah,
crack of Daffy's ass between his black pants and his feathers. And Porky makes a comment, and Daffy pulls his quote pants up. Uh, you know, I guess these people didn't grow up with films like Fantasia, where Walt Disney couldn't get enough of putting cherubs bare behinds. in our faces on 45-foot and larger movie screens.
Well,
So
in the animation community, there's been a lot of talk over the years about Walt Disney's uh, personal obsession with ass jokes, especially in the early Mickeys.
yeah, so to me, this was part of, honoring animation history
There
and
you go.
also really funny gags. So,
So
uh,
I'm really really hoping that the next film, Coyote versus Acme, and as I understand it, it's both live action and animation. It has John Cena in it.
yeah.
And as I understand the premise, it's Wile E. Coyote gets fed up and decides to sue the Acme Corporation for all the stuff he's bought over the years to try to catch the Roadrunner that hasn't exactly worked as promised.
And if this doesn't fit our contemporary cultural zeitgeist with everything going on with tariffs and planned obsolescence, we just had a repairman came in to work on our washing machine. He told us to keep it as long as we could because the new washers don't even last 2 years by his own experience. I'm ready for Coyote versus Acme. It is a reflection of how things are going here in our country today.
Absolutely.
Bring it on.
So,
Bring it
folks,
on, catch up.
if you want to see this film, let me just emphasize again: it's supposed to be on Fandango and Vudu. The Blu-ray is coming out a couple days before my birthday, so
Incredible.
I'm
Incredible.
going to be. If you wonder where to buy Blu-rays, if you don't want to buy them off of Amazon for any particular reason, I go to oldies.com. And this is where I got the Blu-ray of The Crooked Man, the Hellboy movie that Ketchup released. I'm hoping that this Blu-ray will have extras on it, although because the
Might
Crooked,
not. I mean, the Hellboy Blu-ray was as bare bones as any Blu-ray I have purchased legally. But I was so thankful to see the Hellboy movie, which perhaps you and I, Mike, can convince our friend Chris Golden to join us one day and talk about the Hellboy movie here.
oh,
Um,
that would be great. That would be excellent.
Well, before we sign off, I'd like to bring people's attention to a couple things. Mike and I always try to not so much leave you laughing as leave you wanting to spend some money on something we've had a hand in. Uh, so I just received in the mail two magazines I have articles in. These are both from British publisher Hemlock Publishing. The current issue of the Sensational 60s, number 14. The cover is Peter Cushing and Penelope Pitstop. I won't explain why they're together. I did the article on The Green Slime, the 1969 MGM science fiction film, and the current issue of The Age of Thrills, issue number 9. I did the Frankenstein meets the Wolfman article in this issue. Those are out right now, and there are a number of American venues you can buy the magazine from. If you're a listener or viewer in the UK, I believe these are on newsstands right now as we're recording this in April of 2025. Mike, any book you want to recommend before I recommend the book?
Yes, I just got this. I've started reading it. This is called Bluto, Buster, and the Blob.
Wow.
So this is an interview book, interviews that have been done by my friend Lenny Cole. I've known Lenny for many years. He's a Chicago guy. He's a Cine-Geezer too. He may not appreciate that. I don't think he's as old as we are, but he's a Cine-Geezer. So this is his collection of interviews that he has done. At Bluto, it's an interview with Jackson Beck. I also interviewed Beck. Beck was known as the Voice. Um, uh, he's passed, but he came up in the golden age of radio. He played Bluto in the famous Studios Popeye cartoons. He did. I can't imagine how many thousands of commercial voiceovers Jackson Beck
Oh,
did.
God. So we grew up listening to his voice.
Oh yes, yes, he was quite a character, by the way. Um, and there's a lengthy piece with Buster Crabbe. It's funny how Lenny's Lenny's travels have intersected with my travels. I also interviewed Crab. This is a longer interview. Lenny's done a great job. This is brand new from Bear Manor Media.
And again, the title is
The title is
Bluto Buster and the
Buster and the
Blob,
Blob.
Leonard Cole.
So I highly recommend people picking this up because nothing interests me more than being able to read interviews with people who made movies,
Yeah.
and made movies that, you know, it's easy to find out stuff about Clark Gable or other MGM stars. It's much more difficult, and I often find it much more interesting to read about people like Buster Crabbe, for instance, who had a very interesting career, a career that did not use him to his fullest extent as an actor, that's for certain. But and so Lenny's book is one of these great reads. I mean, I know we're sitting here in April, but if you're looking for a good Cine-Geezer beach book, grab this thing. Go to bearmanormedia.com and buy it.
I'm going to recommend, this is a much pricier proposition. There is a brand new book on Salem's Lot, the Tobe Hooper directed TV movie based on Stephen King's best-selling novel. And this is Tobe Hooper's Salem's Lot, Studies in the Horror Film, second edition, edited by Tony Earnshaw, who wrote many of the pieces in here. This is a pricey book. This is almost 150 bucks. And it's a very limited print run, but I highly recommend it. It was worth every penny. And it is a fat brick of a book. They interviewed everyone they could find in connection with the film, including Tobe Hooper when he was still alive. There's over 700 pages of material here. It's lavishly illustrated. It's only available direct from Centipede Press. Centipede, as in the little multi-legged creature that's in your basement and mine, Mike. Press, as in Press, much like the one that Daffy Duck was operating in the day the Earth blew up. And get it while you can. These books drop out of print very quickly, which is why I really wanted to bring it to the attention of our viewers and listeners out there. So that's my recommendation for current favorite film book that I'm devouring.
All right, Steve. Well, until next time, my name is Mike Dobbs, Cine-Geezer, and that's
I'm Stephen R. Bissette, Cine-Geezer, and that's all, folks.